brought down to $1,600. Is there any advance at $1,600?
My name is Wyatt Houston Day, and I'm the head of the African-Americana department at Swann Galleries. On February 21st, we will be celebrating our 13th annual sale of African-Americana printed and manuscript. This is a very rich sale in terms of early history, slavery and abolition through the Civil War, and begins with lot number 1, the 17th century document, a portion of the official ledger regarding the contract, or asiento as the contract is called in Spanish, granted to Domingo Grillo and Ambrosio Lomelin, 2 Italian merchants who gained the exclusive right to import African slaves to Peru. This particular portion of the contract establishes fees and places certain restrictions on the areas in which these merchants could deal. Apparently, according to in context of this portion of the contract, it appears as though they were selling slaves outside the agreed ports. Lot number 5 is a manuscript document signed by Judge Tapping Reeve. Tapping Reeve is a very important figure in terms of America's judicial structure. He was an educator and founded the Litchfield Law School, the first law school in the United States, in 1784. Earlier, in 1781, Reeve worked with Theodore Sedgwick and others to defend Elizabeth Freeman, known as Mom Bet, who had been a slave in Sheffield, Mass. The case no doubt influenced the present document, which attempts to establish how and when a person may be enslaved. In fact, this is a move toward ending slavery in the state of Massachusetts. Lot 15 is an extraordinary grouping of documents that records the proceedings against John and George Durr, free persons of color charged with aiding another free person of color, William Durr, to incite a slave named Sally and her children to flee to the Yankees. What makes this extraordinary is the nature of the punishment, which is cruel and unusual and is stated as such in one of the final documents in this case. The person in question, Mr. Durr, was sentenced to receive 50 stripes, lashes, on the bare back this day, and to receive 50 stripes on the bare back on the first Monday in February, then to receive 50 stripes at the expiration of every 3 months until the term of his imprisonment. This is unbelievable. This amounted to a total of 600 lashes, practically a death sentence. Lot 16 is a very, very rare book by Octavia Rogers Albert called The House of Bondage, or Charlotte Brooks and Other Slaves. Octavia Rogers was an educator and race historian. She was born a slave in Georgia. She attended Atlanta University, where she met and married A.E.P. Albert, another teacher, later Methodist minister. The two moved to Louisiana, where Mrs. Albert began a project of interviewing ex-slaves. A review in the Oxford University Press reprint of this book describes it as, quote, experimental in its attempt to blend an interview format with slave narratives, biographical accounts, historical information, and even her own personal commentary. An example of the Black oral tradition in process. The reader becomes an eyewitness to Black culture and history in formation. In all the years of putting this sale together, this is only the second copy I've ever seen of this book and the first we've ever had in the sale. It is very, very rare. Lots 34 and 35 are periodicals which chronicle the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Lot 34, the New York Herald, April 16th, carries a story the day after. And Lot 35, the New York Times, carries the story the day of the assassination, April 15th. Lot 41 is a rare image of Black soldiers just before the Battle of Yorktown. They're standing in front of a farmhouse, Allen's farmhouse, near Williamsburg Road. This is a very rare image, and it was taken by Barnard and Gibson for Brady, Matthew Brady. Lot 45, another carte-de-visite, is a Confederate carte-de-visite showing the slaves of Jefferson Davis's brother Joe standing in front of the main house on his plantation near Davis Bend in Mississippi. This shows over 40 men, women, and children standing in front of a columned house that looks for all the world like something from Gone with the Wind. Lots 65, 66, and 67 represent images of the notorious slave ship diagram. Lot 65 is the first appearance of that diagram, which was in the American Museum, a magazine, for 1789. The second image we have is that of the slave ship Brooke, and that was published in 1808 in Philadelphia. And Lot 67 is the case of the Vigilante, another diagram. In this case, we have it in a book which tells the case of the capture of that ship. Lot 69 is a collection of 32 original watercolor drawings of the west coast of Africa. This is a unique group of watercolor drawings executed in the manner of an expedition or ship's artist of the 18th and 19th century. Before the age of photography, the eye of the ship's artist was the only means of making a visual record. While at times somewhat naive, these drawings were intended to be accurate rather than aesthetically pleasing or sophisticated. Stylistic differences suggest that the work here might be by two different artists. Most of the scenes depicted are in Cameroon, present-day Gabon, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. One drawing shows two enormous trees with a detailed drawing of the west coast of the Bight of Benin in the background. Along this coast are all the well-known slave factories at Wyatt, Lagos, Bonny Island, Calabar, and Great Popo. Several others are complex scenes of village life, with one showing a burial and mourning, as well as the killing of a witch, with what seems to be a bearded mullah standing in attendance. Another shows crewmen rowing a large canoe while a slave cutter lies anchored nearby. There is as well a unique copy, possibly unique copy, of Robert Campbell's Anglo-African magazine, or second English language newspaper printed in West Africa. That's from August of 1863. Our arts section is, as usual, quite eclectic and includes artists such as Benny Andrews, Robert Blackburn, Elizabeth Catlett, Jacob Lawrence, and Huey Lee Smith, with some very interesting additions of folk art. Black radical movements are represented by the Black Panthers, lots 136 through 140, as well as earlier movements. Lot 141, The Embryo of the Voice of the Negro, a magazine struggling to be born, Volume 1, Number 1. This was a magazine produced by Hubert H. Harrison, a very important but little-known figure who wrote for the New York World, a white newspaper, and Marcus Garvey's Negro World.